Welcome back to O Taste and See. Today I thought we would do something a little different. I think I'm going to share 2 recipes in this video, and I thought we could kind of do like a day in the life. Well, it's part of a day in the life because I've already made homemade English muffins, bacon, and eggs for breakfast, and I've got some lactose-free yogurt going in the Instapot back there for a sweet friend at church. I've recently been making that for her, and I enjoy that. But I thought y'all could tag along for the rest of my day. I do a lot on Saturdays because I recently made a goal with my husband that we're not going to eat out. And when you look at your checking account and you realize how much money you're spending on food that is takeout, it's really shocking. And I can make the same thing at home. Yes, I'll spend a lot more time in the kitchen than I already do because in January I made a goal that I was not going to purchase any bread or bread products from the grocery store. So when you take not eating out and then you take not buying any kind of bread products from the store, that means taco shells, pizza dough, cinnamon rolls, bread, buns, anything like that, and you're making that all from scratch, you really spend a lot of time in the kitchen. And I know everybody don't have the same time that I've got. I homeschool and I don't really have a job, but when you spend this much time in the kitchen, it is like a job, and then you have your house to take care of. But I know everybody else don't always have that time, so I'm not looking down on you if you don't make your bread from scratch or you don't make your cinnamon rolls from scratch, because I used to do the same thing. But I'm going to share 2 recipes in this video, and I think it's going to be this bread recipe, and I'm going to share a pie later on in the video. But we'll start out with the bread, and this is actually going to be for 2 loaves. I normally only make 1 loaf, but I'm needing 2 loaves because I'm going to make some spaghetti later on in the video a little bit, and I want a loaf to go with that for garlic bread, and then I need a loaf for Monday morning so my husband has some sandwich bread for his lunch that he can take to work with him. So to get started, you're going to go ahead and need around 2 1/4 cup of milk and 6 tablespoons of honey, and you're going to put that on the stove to get warm. You don't want this boiling, you just want it warm enough to activate some yeast. While that's getting warm, you're going to go ahead and take another bowl and put around 12 grams of active yeast, which would be 2 teaspoons, maybe just a little more, and then that would be 200 grams of active sourdough, which equals to be about 1 cup if you don't have a measuring scale. And at this point, your milk and honey should be warm. You can go ahead and pour that on it, and you want to whisk that together. Make sure all your sourdough and yeast is up from the bottom. And you can either go ahead and let this activate and get bubbly, or like me, go ahead and break the rules and go ahead and add your flour and your salt. You're going to need around 800 grams of bread flour. If you don't have a scale, I think that equals to be about 5 3/4 cup of bread flour. I'm going to check that out, so make sure you check the comments for the actual recipe. I'm going to check that out and make sure I'm pretty accurate on that. And then you're going to need 24 grams of salt, which equals to be about 4 teaspoons. And then you're going to go ahead and knead that until you get it almost smooth, and then you're going to take it out and add 6 tablespoons of softened butter to the mix. And then you're going to start kneading that, and you're going to be like, oh no, I messed this dough up. No, that is exactly what you're going to think, but it's not. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. It's actually going to be like your butter and your dough is separating, but the more you knead that, the more it's going to come together. If you don't want to knead that by hand and you have a KitchenAid mixer that has a dough hook, you can do that. I do have a KitchenAid mixer, but I just prefer doing it by hand. I don't know, there's something about kneading dough that I like, and I've always done that. I've never really made any kind of bread with my mixer. I don't know, there's just something about doing it by hand that I've always liked, but it's whatever you feel like is best for you. Now that you've pretty much got your ball of dough and it's pretty smooth and it kind of has a bounce back when you push it, you're going to go ahead and get some oil, probably about a tablespoon of oil, and sprinkle in the bowl that you had your dough in. And you're going to go ahead and sit that back in that bowl and cover it with cellophane. I like to cover mine with cellophane and a tea towel. And then you're going to want to put this in a warm spot. Most people can leave this out on their counter because their house is 70 degrees. If you know me, my house is not warm. Sometimes it's 62 degrees in the house. I hate heat, but I love air conditioner. So I actually turned my oven on and let it just get barely warm. I only left it on for 2 minutes or so, and it really don't reach any temperature. It really stays on the lowest settings that you can get it. And I turned it off and I put my dough in there to rise for 2 hours. After those 2 hours, we'll come back and I'll show you the next step. So what I'm doing here is I'm just chopping some onions, and this is going to be for a dinner tomorrow after church. It's going to be for spaghetti, and I'm not coming on here to give you a spaghetti recipe. I know everybody has their own way of doing spaghetti. A lot of people make homemade sauce. Some people use jarred sauce. So that's not what I'm coming here to give you my recipe advice on that. But I was just going to let y'all know I lost a clip of me cooking down some ground beef, and I'm not sure what happened to that clip. But I wanted y'all to know that I wasn't just adding onions and pasta sauce. I did add some meat to that, and then I also lost a clip of me starting to boil some noodles. I'm using a packaged noodle, spaghetti noodle. I normally make homemade, and my son actually come in when I was making them, and he said, "Oh no, not those, I like homemade." And I actually can't tell you the last time I purchased a box of spaghetti noodles or a package of spaghetti noodles at the store, because I make homemade all the time. I even make lasagna noodles. I used to cut them out by hand with a pizza cutter, but I got this little tool off of Amazon that is super easy to use, and it was really cheap compared to most pasta cutters. I think I paid around $30 for it, and we absolutely love that. And I just make all of the noodles. I got a recipe offline, and then I kind of worked it until I found what I liked, and it's super simple, and I plan to share that eventually. But right now I just made the store-bought, and then I'm going to sit this over and let it cool before I add it to the fridge. As you've seen, I added a little bit of oil to my noodles so they wouldn't stick, and that just helps once they cool that you can get them apart without them sticking together. As you see, our bread has doubled in size, or actually tripled in size it looks like. I'm going to take that out and put it on the counter, and I'm just going to cut that into 2 loaves, and I'll work with 1 loaf at a time. Got a little sidetracked by my husband there. Then you're going to just cut that, and like I said, you're going to work 1 loaf at a time. You're going to flatten that out on your counter and kind of fold it into back into a ball, kind of, just to let some of the air out, and I like to smush it down. And then you're going to take it and just roll it, and then once you roll it, you're going to just drag it across the counter, trying to make that seam a little smoother so that you don't have an open seam on the bottom. And I'm just going to take and pull my dough there, and I'm just going to drag it, and then I'm going to actually line my bread pans. A lot of people don't, and that is okay, and if you don't want to, that's fine, but you're going to probably want to grease your bread pans. I just choose to put parchment paper down because I said I spent 3 hours on this bread. I don't want to take a chance of it tearing or chunking, trying to get it out of the pan. So I put parchment paper down, and I've always done that, and I've never had a problem with my bread not turning out. So that's just what I like, but you can do what you like, and that will be fine too. Then you're going to want to take that and put it in your pans and cover it with a towel, and you're going to actually let this rise for 1 more hour. And then we will bake it once it is doubled and almost over your pans. So my bread has actually doubled in size and is coming over the pan. That's exactly what we want. I'm going to go ahead and take that towel off and turn my oven on to 350. And I'm going to leave that bread in there. I'm not going to take it out, and I'll just let it stay in there as the oven warms up, and you're going to bake that for 35 minutes or until golden brown. I'm not sure if I said anything at the beginning of the video or not, but today is my husband's birthday, and he don't like cake and he don't like chocolate, so I'm going to be making him a peaches and cream pie for our dinner. And it's super simple. I don't remember a time that my mama didn't make this dessert and take it to church dinner, or if there was a funeral, she would make this dessert. So I'm pretty used to this dessert, and we make it occasionally. So I'm going to make that today, and this will be the second recipe that I share with y'all. It's super simple. We're going to go ahead and start with the crust. You're going to need 3/4 cup of self-rising flour, 1 small box of instant vanilla pudding, 3 tablespoons of butter, 1 egg, and 1/2 cup of milk. I don't actually buy self-rising flour. I buy all-purpose flour or bread flour. So I'm going to convert my all-purpose flour over to be self-rising flour. But I want to let y'all know I actually forget to do that until at the end. And you'll see me adding a tablespoon of baking powder and a pinch of salt so that I can convert that all-purpose flour over. But if you have self-rising flour, you don't need that baking powder or that salt. But just because I'm in the kitchen all the time does not mean I remember to add this and I remember to add that. I forget to. So if you make a mistake in the kitchen, don't let that discourage you, because I'm literally all the time in the kitchen and I still made a mistake. By this point, I was pretty tired in the day, because this video may be 18 minutes for y'all, but for me, it was about all day, because like I said, I done made breakfast this morning before I even got started, and I just feel like by this point I was kind of dragging a little bit and I wasn't fully thinking. I forgot to lay out my cream cheese so it could be soft, so I actually have refrigerator cold cream cheese that I'm going to defrost in the microwave for a few minutes. You want to make sure you put this on defrost. You do not want it warm enough that it gets those brown spots that if you heat cream cheese too long, it will get brown and hard. That is not what we want. We just want it soft. I'm going to take a 9-inch pie pan and I'm going to go ahead and take my dough, and I'm going to make sure I get it evenly on the bottom of the pie pan, and then once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and take it and drag it up the sides of the pie pan. My cream cheese should be about done in the microwave, and we're going to take that and I'm going to whisk that to make sure there's no cold spots in the cream cheese. I want it to be soft all the way through, so that my sugar gets combined and my peach juice gets combined. So you're going to need 1/2 cup of sugar and 3 teaspoons of your peach juice out of your cans, and you're going to whisk that together and make sure everything is smooth, and then you're going to sit that to the side, and you're going to go ahead and drain the rest of your peaches, and then we're going to go ahead and place those peaches in our pie pan. You'll see me doing that in just a minute. I think it is so beautiful how you just lay out these peaches. I think it reminds me of a flower, is what I've always said. Growing up, I thought it was the coolest thing how you lay your peaches in your pie pan like that. I just always thought it was so cool. As you can see, I'm not following the instructions that I gave y'all. I'm pouring straight from the can into my mixture, and I never follow a recipe. It's so hard for me to even sit down and write a recipe for y'all, because I don't ever follow a recipe, and I'm always going and doing something different than probably what I'm telling y'all. But I'm going to take my peaches and I'm going to place them in the pie pan, and then you're going to take that cream cheese mixture that we made, and you're going to pour that over the peaches, and then you're going to want to make 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and a tablespoon of sugar and mix that real well and sprinkle that over the cream cheese mixture, and that just gives it a beautiful look on it. And you're going to turn your oven on 350 preheated, and you're going to bake for 30 to 40 minutes. So my bread is getting ready to come out of the oven, and I think it turned out so good today. I thought it was beautiful. Sometimes you make it and it's just like the weather outside makes it not be as pretty. It always tastes good, but it's just not as pretty. But today it was smooth, and that is exactly what I like to see. I'm going to go ahead and take some butter, and I'm going to rub over the tops of it. That just helps it to soften and not have such a hard crust. while it cools, and I recommend leaving it in the pan to cool, and a cooling rack is what I've got it. And I recommend, as hard as it is, not to go ahead and cut it. If you cut it while it's warm or it's hot, it gives it kind of a gummy texture, and it's almost like it's not done. And that's not what I like to eat a sandwich on. I like my bread to have a pretty good texture. I know it's hard, but if you can manage to get by letting it cool, that's the best. Now I'm going to go ahead and be working on some homemade lo mein, and I'll show you when my pie gets out of the oven. I actually make lo mein quite a bit at the house. Today I'm going to be putting steak with it, but a lot of times I'll do shrimp, and I do it different every time. Today I'm using a store-bought sauce, and it is called Japanese barbecue sauce, and it is so good. And it's easy, it's quick. I didn't have to pull out all of the ingredients to put on this lo mein, and I thought I would just share that it's so good. It's a little sweet side, but it don't take a lot at all. And you can put this on your lo mein, or you can even do it on like hibachi when you make homemade Japanese. Oh, that's so good, and it's such a good sauce. One day I might share the recipe that I do use when I make it homemade, but I wanted to make sure I jumped in here and shared. It's called Japanese barbecue sauce. I'm not even sure what brand it is now, but if you haven't tried it, you need to try it because it's so good. After dinner, we went outside and I planted some seeds, trying to get them to grow and make a plant, so that I can put them in my garden. And I should have took the camera because I know I said it was a day in the life, but I never thought a breath about the camera. I was just kind of in a hurry to get it over with since I'd been in the kitchen all day. And then after I planted those seeds, I actually come back inside and made a chocolate eclair for our dessert for after church. And I didn't video that either, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you will try something and let me know how you like it.